Although a totemic personage is perceivable in the center of Totem Lesson 2, in the earlier version, Pollock fractured his shapes and symbols more thoroughly, scattering them haphazardly across the picture surface. As in Night Ceremony, there seems to be no designated focal point in Totem Lesson 1, no place where the eye can rest for more than a few seconds. As in much of the American art he admired, there seems to be only one layer of space. He soon extended this somewhat antagonistic procedure to his oil paintings. From the looks of such works as Night Mist or Portrait of H.M., it does seem plausible, as Robert Motherwell has suggested, that this compulsively destructive technique was intended to exorcise all traces of Picasso, whose pitiless influence Pollock had by now come to believe was holding back his own development. Close examination of Pollock's mural reveals similarly reductive personages reminiscent of Miro, now repeated rhythmically across a much larger expanse of space. The imagery of mural neatly bridges the gap between Guardians of mid-1943 and a new type of work to be initiated the following year, in which more abstract energies would be substituted for the resolution of Jungian problems. Gothic. Gothic's cool, stained glass palette is markedly different from mural's preponderance of warm yellow, orange, and reddish tones. However, in both, we find an equal stress on all parts of the canvas, with loosely delineated forms rendered in black outline evenly distributed from edge to edge. In the horizontally oriented format of mural, one is led to visualize not only the lateral progression of the figures across the canvas, but also the movements of the artist in the process of creating them. On the canvas now known as Composition with Pouring 2, Pollock swirled green, bright blue, black, brown, and maroon pigments to form non-specific shapes. On top of these, he smeared in yellow and poured, dripped, and dabbed another layer in black. As opposed to the predominantly warm Composition with Pouring 1, where recognizable triangles, eyes, etc. peek out from beneath the dripped pigment, no imagery is discernible in this second, poured painting. A similar non-specificity characterizes Waterbirds, the first canvas to incorporate splashed and runny passages. There were 7 in 8. A large work almost half the size of mural is simultaneously more compacted and freer in its all-over configuration. In fact, the rhythmic repetition of almost identical forms in mural, visually bracketed at either end, takes on an almost classical cast when compared with the expressionistic helter-skelter scribble-scrabble of There Were 7 in 8. There Were 7 in 8 can be said to demonstrate Pollock's ultimate expansion of the automatically engendered linear overlay first developed in the prints he created under the tutelage of Stanley William Hayter. Certain of these drawings share characteristics very much like the approach of this painting. However, they noticeably lack the edge-to-edge, lattice-like overlay, possibly derived from Masson's compositions. Looking at these smaller works, the observer again feels that Pollock's formerly recognizable imagery has somehow become ensnared, this time in a maelstrom of shorter arced and wiggling lines, now very different from those used by Masson, Matta, or Hayter. In fact, the thatched configurations in these works or more reminiscent of the distinctive style of the famed Russian-born expressionist Vasily Kandinsky in the 1910s and 1920s. Several of Pollock's sketches also resemble Kandinsky's signature woodcuts, drawings, and paintings, in that no gravitational anchor for the markings is indicated, and white space is left around the perimeters. In late 1946, temporarily using a small upstairs bedroom as his studio, Jackson began what Lee was to suggest he call the Accabonac Creek series, after the body of water visible behind their house. At least one work in this 8-painting series, The Key, was finished on the floor in the bedroom. In all or most of the rest, Pollock had the advantage of working in his converted barn studio, moved to its final site after they had lived on Fireplace Road for 8 months. As we have seen, his color did not begin to improve until the early 40s under the influence of Picasso and especially Miro. Still, it is with a certain amazement that we experience the new variety and richness of hue in such paintings as The Key, The Teacup, and The Water Bowl. Searching for a visual precedent does not uncover Miro or Picasso. Rather, more immediately brought to mind are the mixed technique or broken touch pre-Fauve works of Matisse. The level of excitability increases in another canvas from this group, Croaking Movement, whose title suggests the staccato sounds and motions emanating from a weed-choked meadow, and whose composition features appropriately jerky sgraffito marks. In Croaking Movement, Pollock etched the final suggestive layer of scribbled imagery into thickened wet paint, squeezed on the canvas directly from the tube. Pushed up to the very edge of the picture plane, the incised notations of this painting energetically transform it into a teeming microcosm of natural change.